right, we're going to move on to some prop bets, our prop closet passing yards. I know this doesn't matter for the totals or how they relate to the game tonight, but putting these two and their stats side by side, it's not even close. You've got sophomore and Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young, who is third in yards at over 4,500 and second in touchdowns at 46, going up against Stetson Bennett, who is in his senior season ranked 57th in yards at over 2,600 and tied for 17th in touchdowns at 27. Obviously, his stats alone aren't what got the Bulldogs here, but this is an easy pick for me. All right, we've got Bryce Young, 303.5. Arky, will he go over or under this?
Yeah, I guess we'll start with Bryce first because you said it, and I like to bend at the will and the knee of Kayla Canero. So to me, this feels not like a layup, but a pretty good bet to go over. Bryce Young's averaging just over 9 yards per attempt this season. Now, if we continue that pace, which he did very well the last time these two met, not quite in the game against Cincinnati, but Cincinnati was playing a type of defense that I don't think Georgia's playing in this game. But they gave up a whole bunch of yards to Brian Robinson, over 200 yards to him, and Bryce Young only had to sort of dink and dunk and peck his way down the field, and they still won. Plus, I think they kept a lot of things in the vest because they knew they didn't have to against Cincinnati. Against Georgia, it's going to be a little bit of a different deal. Bryce Young, if he keeps up the just over 9 yards per attempt, he'll need to go 33 attempts, roughly, to sort of get us on pace for what he normally gets. That's happened 8 times this season, and including 5 of those, in the other 5 games where it didn't happen, most of those were giant blowouts against teams that were either FCS or way lower level FBS programs where he didn't have to play the entire game. So this game he is going to be in. I assume it's not going to be a 30-point blowout, so I assume he's going to be in there for a lot of this game. So I think we'll see the 33 attempts, and I think we'll see him go somewhere around 24 or 33 of this game, which is right around the numbers that he's averaging. And in that case, I love the over 303 and a half in this game because I think Bryce is going to have to air it out, and he's got really talented weapons on the outside. I think this is a number that I would love to go even higher, but if I can get a 303 and a half, even if you get it before it gets to like 309, 310, I still feel pretty good about it. So I'm going to go over 303 and a half.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I could have set that up better. We're starting with Bryce Young, 303 and a half, obviously. I feel confident taking the over with Bryce Young tonight. After all, he has hit this number in 8 of Bama's games this season. And he didn't just reach that number in those games, he blew it out of the water. Some of which included putting up 421 yards on Georgia in the SEC championship game and 559 yards on Arkansas 2 weekends before that. Young is averaging 336 a game, and with that, I will be taking the over for him tonight. There's really nothing else to say about that. Next up, we've got Stetson Bennett. He is sitting at 245.5 yards. Arky, are you going to be taking the over-under with him?
Yeah, I am. I am going to be taking over 245.5 for this, too. I'm expecting, as you can tell, a lot of offense to be able to happen in this game. And again, as much as you want to be sort of conservative with Stetson Bennett, you can't in this game. We've seen him have some explosive plays against Michigan. We've seen it happen throughout the majority of this season, usually in much smaller doses because they get big on a team and they don't have to go anything but boa constrictor strangle mode on a team. I don't think that's the case tonight. I think he's going to need as much airplay as possible to be able to compete with and to beat Alabama. Now, I know he's only averaging like 188 yards a game this season, but he's gone over this 245.5 in 3 straight games. And those have been 3 of the most important games he's played this season. So, for me, this is pretty simple. To stay in this game, he's going to need a bunch of passing yards. And even if they get behind 7, 10, 14 points, you're going to need him to try to catch up, too. I think you're going to get garbage yards. I think you're going to try to stay in the game yards. I think you're going to get early yards. So I look for Stetson Bennett to end around 270, 280 yards tonight because I think he's going to be flinging it around more than we're expecting.
Okay. Well, in their last meeting, Bennett did throw for 340, but I think the national championship stage changes that. I think the nerves will kick in a bit. He also threw for 313 in the semifinal game and is averaging around 253 a game, but he only hit or exceeded this number of 245.5 yards passing in 6 of their 12 games he started this season. We also know that this team is someone who likes to keep the ground on the ball a lot more than Bama and isn't as pass happy as the Crimson Tide. So I don't know. I think I'm going to ride the under with him tonight. I need to be different from you somehow, some way today. So I'm going to take the under for Stinson tonight.
Yeah, and you don't have to. Like, you're trying to make money too. But I just sort of see this as a game where we're going to look for more and more and more offense, and you're not going to get it, I think, as much from guys like James Cook and Zamir White. And, you know, I just don't think you're going to be able to beat Alabama running the ball a lot. I think Stetson Bennett's going to have to win you some third downs. And I don't know if he's going to be able to. I mean, I think there's a real good chance that Georgia can win this game. It's not impossible. Eventually, Kirby Smart's due for a championship at some point. I just don't know when that's going to be. But Stetson Bennett's going to have to be the guy to do it. I don't trust him to do it, but I do trust him to keep trying and keep going over and over and over again to get you over the 245.5.
Yeah, and if there's a risk I'm willing to take tonight, it's this prop right here. So we'll see what happens. Moving on to our next prop closet. Anytime touchdown score. Arky, who are you picking for this one?
Oh, my big man Brock Bowers, baby.
Woo!
Now listen, it's not a great return on investment. I think he's minus 130 or 135 for FanDuel right now. But again, I'm trying to make money, right? And if I'm looking for a target that Stetson Bennett loves, why not pick the big, giant, fat tight end? Now, he's not fat. He's just a big, giant dude. And he is phenomenal. This freshman is huge. He had 10 catches, 139 yards, and a touchdown against Alabama in the SEC championship game. He has to be a factor for Georgia to be able to win this game. There's no two ways about it. The bottom line is, if he's not, you're going to have a long, long night for Stetson Bennett and the Bulldogs. And I know Alabama's probably going to try to key in and take him away, but who's going to patrol the middle of the field if you're Alabama against him? It's not going to be Will Anderson for the most part. Will Anderson is going to try to put Stetson Bennett on his ass for the most part tonight. So I like Brock Bowers in this game to score a touchdown at any point. It's also the guy that has the most targets. He has 22 more catches and 7 more touchdowns than anybody else on the team. It's clear Stetson Bennett's guy is Brock Bowers, big number one. And if you're wanting to get a guy for Georgia that's most likely to score a touchdown at any point, for me, it's clear. You go with the giant freshman in Brock Bowers. Okay.
Can you guess who I'm going to pick?
I can't.
Well, hailing from St. Louis, Missouri, of course, I'm going with my guy and Alabama's very own Jameson Williams, who's at minus 160 to have a touchdown on the night. So far this season, the junior has had 75 receptions for 1,507 yards and 15 touchdowns. He's had at least one touchdown in 9 of Bama's 14 games, which, yes, means in 5 games he went quiet, including the Crimson Tide's last game against Cincinnati. But when he's hot, he is hot. In those 5 games where he didn't find the end zone, he did put up over 60 yards in 4 of them. Williams has also had 4 games with more than 1 touchdown, including 3 against Arkansas and New Mexico State. And most importantly, in their last meeting with Georgia, he found the end zone not once, but twice. So if he could do that again tonight, that would really be appreciated. Thanks, Jameson. But yes, I'm going with Jameson here for a touchdown. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think Jameson's a good bet. There's a lot of juice on it at minus 160 to be able to get it to pay off for you. But he's the guy that's clearly it's due again. He's a big explosive playmaker for the Crimson Tide. But Alabama's loaded with playmakers. That's why this was such a tough bet for me to go for Alabama, because there's so many guys that could score, and there's a good chance all of them score tonight. That the most likely for Georgia, which is the one I was most interested in, was going to be someone like Brock Bowers. But Jameson Williams probably will score a touchdown tonight.
That's true. You've got a lot to choose from with Bama, less to choose from with Georgia, so you're probably playing the better bet there. But
I didn't even think about the Missouri connection. I should have known better. I should have looked where these guys are from.
He's my people.
Yeah. Well, is he more your people or more Ohio State's people or more Alabama's people?
That's true. Why didn't he pick Mizzou?
He's a lot of people's people. Well, I think you know why.
Rude. Got to keep these guys in state. All right. Our final prop of the day, player rushing yards. Who are you looking at for this one, Arky?
For me, I'm going with my man B-Rob, Brian Robinson for the University of Alabama. He is at 65.5 rushing yards tonight. And here's the thing I do with player yards props. Get it at the number I'm telling you. Maybe if it's a little bit lower, if I'm going over, or a little high, if it's higher, go under. I'm going over 65.5 yards. The reason I tell you to get the number now is because lots of change. Like, you'll see this number go from 65 to 68 to 70 to maybe 54 some places. Like, you just don't know what some of these books are going to be able to give you this number at. But if you can get it at 65.5, which is what I got it at, or lower, I got it on FanDuel, by the way, then I love this matchup. Now, it is true, last time against Georgia, he went for 16 carries and 55 yards. But the man was injured. The man got hurt later in the Auburn game, a lower leg injury. He was limping going into that game against Georgia for the SEC championship game. But if you watched him against Cincinnati, once he had a few weeks to rest, he looked good, Kayla. He looked good. Over 200 rushing yards, 204, I think, on the ground for that night. So if you're going to give me 65.5, I really think I like my odds here. I love Brian Robinson as a running back. He's been there a while. He's a big, tough runner. He's good at finding the alleys and the lanes to cut through. I think it's going to be difficult for Georgia to be able to key in on all the outside talent, and for Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders, the other running back too for Alabama. That I think you're going to see Brian Robinson. He may get over 65.5 yards on like 2 total carries. Like he is an explosive enough guy that I think he could get a couple of 30, 40-yard carries in this game, just because Georgia will be so keyed on one side or the other. I'm not sure which side it's going to be, but I don't hate this pick. I love this pick a lot. So if you get it at 65.5 or below, yes. If it starts getting up to 70, 62, wherever, or 72, wherever you find it, lay off. But 65.5 or below, take the over. Love it. I love B-Rob tonight. Okay.
I like that for you too. I'm looking at Georgia's Zamir White and hoping he can put up over 50.5 rushing yards tonight in Indy, and I feel confident he can. He's gone over this number in 8 of Georgia's games this season. His season high was in Week 9 against Florida with 105 rushing yards, and his season low was against who, Archie? Can you guess?
Was it against Alabama?
No.
Okay.
It was against Mizzou of all teams at just 14.
My God, I keep forgetting it. It all comes back to Como.
It all comes back to Como. He only had 14 rushing yards against Mizzou. What can I say? Our defense is really good.
Yeah, what a disaster.
While he didn't get close to that number in their last meeting with Alabama with 27 rushing yards, he did put up 54 on the ground against Michigan in the Bulldogs semifinal game. After all, he does lead UGA with 147 carries for 772 yards and 10 touchdowns on the season. So, since Georgia likes to keep the ball on the ground and since they will be playing on college football's biggest stage, I'm expecting a big night out of my guy of over 50.5 yards on the ground. Let's go, Zamir.
I think they're going to have it for Stetson Bennett and company to have enough time to be able to throw for Zamir White and company to have a decent game running. They don't have to go nuts. They just have to have a pretty decent night. So if Zamir White goes for over 50.5, there's a chance Georgia could keep themselves in this game all the way to the very end.